This is CBS News live coverage of the scene from Midland, Texas. Dan Rather with Bruce Hall.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the 20 craziest and most shocking events of the 1980s that were captured on live television.
Plane just come dropping right out of the sky, right at you. And all I did was scream.
Number 20, Hurricane Hugo.
Many of the people leaving the barrier islands are spending the night here in Savannah. But when the hurricane hits, the Savannah River is also expected to surge. The historic 200-year-old buildings along its banks are just 5 feet above sea level. Even here, 17 miles inland, flood damage is expected to be heavy.
Let's begin at the end. The 1980s concluded with what at the time was the costliest hurricane in American history. It was Hurricane Hugo, and it killed 107 people while inflicting $11 billion worth of damage. Throughout September of 1989, Hugo devastated South Carolina and huge swaths of the Caribbean, dealing unbelievable damage to areas like St. Croix and Montserrat. Hugo was also shown extensively on TV, with major networks broadcasting on location and reporting on the horrendous winds and local flooding. Local TV stations like WCIV also aired deep into the night, giving last-minute evacuation warnings and updating viewers on the worsening conditions. And that's not including the morning after devastation, with aerial footage broadcasting the nightmarish aftermath for all to see.
Hurricane Hugo, what it left behind. The most ferocious storm in 35 years was, just as advertised, a monster. The South Carolina coastline tonight, a reminder of nature's power.
Number 19, the Iran hostage crisis.
Good evening. The U.S. Embassy in Tehran has been invaded and occupied by Iranian students. The Americans inside have been taken prisoner, and according to a student spokesman, will be held as hostages until the deposed Shah is returned from the United States, where he's receiving medical treatment for cancer.
Beginning on November 4th, 1979, the Iran hostage crisis saw 52 Americans taken hostage at the U.S. Embassy in Tehran and quickly became a nightly fixture on U.S. television. In fact, ABC News launched a dedicated late-night program to the tragedy called America Held Hostage, which later evolved into the now famous Nightline. The network provided daily updates, expert analysis, and interviews, keeping the American public closely informed for the entire 444-day ordeal. While there was no live footage from inside the embassy, major news outlets used photos, press briefings, and video from outside the compound to inform American viewers of the unfolding crisis, which finally concluded on January 20th, 1981, with the signing of the Algiers Accord.
Let me just tell you quickly that this is the hour when Good Morning America would normally begin. However, as those who have been watching so far this morning already know, there has been the startling new development in the Iran hostage crisis.
Number 18, Live Aid.
It's 12 noon in London, 7 a.m. in Philadelphia, and around the world it's time for Live Aid.
Crazy can mean multiple things, and sometimes it has good connotations. Like Live Aid, a massive dual-venue benefit concert that was simultaneously held in both London and Philadelphia on July 13, 1985. The concert was organized by Bob Geldof and Midge Ure to raise funds for Ethiopian famine relief, and it quickly became one of the most iconic music events in history. It was truly unprecedented in scale for a live television event, featuring over 70 major acts split across 2 continents and lasting for more than 16 hours. Pulling off Live Aid was a monumental effort of technological coordination, and it remains one of the most ambitious TV broadcasts ever attempted. Number 17, Joe Theismann's broken leg.
And everything is starting to collapse. And all of a sudden, I feel somebody grab my left shoulder, and I swung around, and it was Lawrence, and he wouldn't let go.
Football fans witnessed one of the worst injuries in sports history on November 18, 1985. Giants linebacker Lawrence Taylor tackled quarterback Joe Theismann, his knee interacting with Theismann's leg in a way that essentially snapped it in half. The quarterback's tibia and fibula were both fractured in the tackle, and his leg bent at a horrific angle. A grisly sight that was not only shown live, but broadcast again and again in slow motion. Meanwhile, the commentators repeatedly expressed disgust, and the repeated visual was simply too graphic for many to stomach. Luckily, Theismann would walk again, but his broken leg was left shorter due to insufficient bone recovery. and his football career was over.
The pain was more than I've ever gone through in my life, in any phase of my life, whether it be athletics or hitting myself with a hammer.
Number 16, the royal wedding of Charles and Diana.
She gives us that now familiar sidelong glance, smile. And now they will be in Buckingham Palace for about an hour or so, pulling themselves together as the Queen arrives with her father, Lord Spencer.
The royal family held far more cultural sway in the 80s than they do today. As such, the wedding of Prince Charles and Lady Diana was an unforgettable day that many continue to cherish. A global audience of 750 million people watched as the couple married on July 29, 1981. Dozens of live TV cameras captured the procession from Buckingham Palace to St. Paul's Cathedral, the ceremony inside St. Paul's, the return route to Buckingham, and the famous balcony kiss. The wedding was a true spectacle, and the broadcast was the technological marvel befitting its scope and bombast.
We'll have more coverage, of course, of all of the activities here from Buckingham Palace and the route. The royal wedding continues on NBC.
Number 15. Air Florida Flight 90.
I found myself immediately on the verge of blacking out. I said a brief prayer, please God, take care of my son, today's his birthday, and I didn't expect to regain consciousness.
A horrible plane crash occurred on January 13, 1982, when Air Florida Flight 90 crashed into the 14th Street Bridge over the Potomac River in Washington, D.C. While the initial crash was not aired on TV, local news crews quickly arrived at the scene, and the rescue operation was broadcast live across the country as national networks picked up the story. Dramatic footage showed survivors desperately clinging to life in the icy waters and the heroic rescue efforts from both trained professionals and everyday citizens hoping to help. The rawness of the broadcast was shocking, with viewers seeing courage, helplessness, and tragedy occur in real time. In the end, just 5 of the aircraft's occupants survived, and 4 motorists were also killed in the collision.
Obviously here, this is a helicopter just moving around, you can see just beyond the helicopter portions of the wreckage.
Number 14, Clint Malarchuk.
He had his hand on his throat, and in one split second, there was a 3-foot puddle of blood in front of him, soon to be 5 feet.
Arguably the most grisly sports injury of all time occurred on March 22, 1989, during a hockey game between the Buffalo Sabres and the St. Louis Blues. In the first period, Steve Tuttle collided with Sabres goaltender Clint Malarchuk, his skate flying up and slicing Malarchuk's exposed throat. Luckily, the live TV feeds were quick to cut away, but not before viewers had already seen way more than they would have liked. The commentators were audibly distraught and begged viewers not to look, and there were many reports of people having a visceral reaction to the sight, like fainting and vomiting. Miraculously, Malarchuk skated off the ice and survived, although his near-death experience resulted in a continuing battle with PTSD.
It was horrendous. It was like watching your kid die.
Number 13, the rescue of Jessica McClure.
Dan, it looks like they're getting ready to bring something up from the hole. I can't tell. They're tightening the slack on the cable, and people are moving in very, very close to the hole. 2 doctors are right on the edge.
Everyone loves a good rescue and survival story. That's why the country was left utterly captivated in October of 1987, when officials rescued Jessica McClure from a well. The child fell into a well in her aunt's backyard, dropping 22 feet underground. For the next 58 hours, authorities desperately worked on a rescue, while national TV crews swarmed the farm and provided minute-by-minute updates. Live coverage was intense and continuous, with networks often switching from regular programming to live updates, the cameras capturing every second of the thrilling rescue effort. And many were brought to tears on the evening of October 16th when Jessica finally emerged. The event quickly became a cultural phenomenon, a defining moment of the 1980s.
And they want to make certain that when they bring her up, that she is all right and there are no difficulties here. Here she comes. There's clapping.
Number 12, the fall of the Berlin Wall.
From ABC, this is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings. Reporting tonight from Berlin.
From the Berlin Wall specifically, take a look at them. They've been there since last night. They are here in the thousands. They are here in the tens of thousands.
The world was hit with a sudden and dramatic turning point on November 9, 1989, when the Berlin Wall came down, and symbolized the collapse of communist control in Eastern Europe. The event was extensively covered in the media, with visuals showing crowds gathering at border crossings, people climbing the wall, and scenes of intense celebration and jubilation. Both CNN and BBC played major roles in bringing the live scenes to English-speaking audiences, and major networks stopped regular programming to show live satellite feeds from Berlin. The media coverage turned the fall of the wall into an unforgettable cultural event, a moment that many had waited decades to occur, and which eventually paved the way for the end of the Cold War.
It has been an astonishing day. Hour after hour, all through today, thousands and thousands of West Germans have come to the wall to see for themselves, to climb up on this hideous structure, to finally look down at what has been no man's land for so long.
Number 11. Pope John Paul II assassination attempt. It's perhaps difficult for some younger viewers, in this age of instantaneous information, to understand how some news stories used to impact their shared viewership in real time.
Amongst the cheering and the peal of bells announcing the arrival of the Pope, they heard gunfire and saw the Pope turn pale and collapse, bloody, into the arms of his aide.
The news of an assassination attempt on Pope John Paul II by Turkey's Mehmet Ali Agca unfolded on the nightly news. A shocking development that not only affected Catholics, but individuals around the world.
The rest of the world is trying to adjust to the shock of this attack on the life of Pope John Paul II.
The images of assassins' bullets hitting the pontiff were troubling, as was the history of Ali Agca, a hitman who had already murdered a journalist, Abdi Apekci, in 1979. Pope John Paul II, in the meantime, forgave Ali Agca for his crimes, with the latter serving a combined 29 years before being released in 2010.
The former terrorist says he will travel to Rome because he feels a duty to pray at the tomb of John Paul II.
Number 10. 1987 Whittier Narrows earthquake. Local and national news reporters have a lot on their collective plates when it comes to distributing all of the information they can about natural disasters, like the 1987 Whittier Narrows earthquake.
The nation's second largest city had virtually been brought to its knees by the most powerful earthquake to hit there in 16 years.
This Los Angeles area quake received extensive coverage via local NBC affiliates in the area, documenting all of the damage and injuries, while also reporting rescue and recovery efforts.
300 people evacuated from a 12-block area tonight. No one's being let in. You can see why.
The 1987 Whittier Narrows earthquake ended up causing between $213 and $358 million in damage and 200 reported injuries, including 3 deaths. An intense quake that rocked Los Angeles area businesses, homes, and infrastructure.
Were you scared?
No, oh no, no, I have Jesus. When you have the Lord, you don't really get frightened.
Number 9. Murdoch train explosion. It was a perfect storm of sorts, with the most imperfect resulting outcome. A railroad train that derailed in the small, unincorporated town of Murdoch, Illinois.
Soon after the derailment, a tanker of propane gas burst into flames.
Live video was captured of this incident when the train from Baltimore and Ohio caught fire after the afternoon derailment. The fire became exacerbated by petroleum gas that was filling up with the train's tanks.
The fire was only on one car at the time, and the boys at the truck, they had started putting water on it, and it got too hot and they just pulled back.
This resulted in a massive, expanding vapor explosion of boiling liquid. Blasts so powerful that train cars were actually expelled from the ground into the nearby wooded areas. Local and international news outlets alike shared video from this disaster to audiences around the country.
The danger may be over, but officials are still monitoring the scene.
Number 8. The death of Tommy Cooper. Known for his massive frame and red fez, Tommy Cooper was a brilliant entertainer who fused magic with comedy, creating an act that was famous on British TV. Unfortunately, he was also a very unhealthy man, being a heavy smoker and drinker. On April 15, 1984, Cooper performed in front of 12 million viewers on a variety show called Live from Her Majesty's.
Oh, who did it?
Partway through his act, Cooper became unresponsive and collapsed. As he was known for his kooky brand of humor, the audience thought it was all part of the act and laughed, not knowing that he had suffered a fatal heart attack.
My wife said, oh, there can't be anything wrong because they would have cut it out. And I said, no, it's live.
Cooper was rushed to the hospital, but was announced dead on arrival.
He's left a gap, Annie, hasn't he?
We shall miss him very much.
Number 7. Bhopal disaster. Documentaries and news stories alike have documented the tragic Bhopal disaster of 1984.
Yesterday, Union Carbide suspended production of methyl isocyanate here to check the safety system and suspended shipments of the substance to other plants.
It's still known today as the largest industrial disaster to ever afflict the world, having resulted in the deaths of over 3,000 people. The numbers are actually even more complicated than that, since some sources claim that the actual number of claimed fatalities to number more than 16,000.
Let us learn during this time to forgive. It's very important that no bitterness, no anger dwells in our hearts.
But hundreds in Bhopal were not in a forgiving mood, chanting Union Carbide is a killer.
Furthermore, over 500,000 injuries were also attributed to the methyl isocyanate gas leak that emerged from a Union Carbide India Limited pesticide plant in Bhopal, Madhya Pradesh, India.
I am confident that the victims can be fairly and equitably compensated without a material adverse effect on the financial condition of Union Carbide Corporation.
Number 6, Ronald Reagan assassination attempt.
And here you see the president coming out now.
It was one of those moments where the world stopped, and every American was acutely aware of where they were when they saw the images of former President Ronald Reagan being shot by John Hinckley Jr. Traumatic collective American memories of John F. Kennedy likely came flooding back to those of a certain age, while home audiences held their breath and waited for news.
I'm just being told now that the president has not returned to the White House.
Reagan did ultimately survive the attack, although Hinckley Jr.'s actions were not without consequence. White House Press Secretary James Brady suffered traumatic brain injuries as a result of the gunshots. He eventually passed away in 2014 after successfully lobbying for stricter gun control.
Yet, despite it all, Jim Brady still has a sense of humor.
I've learned that it is smarter to duck.
Number 5, the Loma Prieta earthquake. The eyes of many American sports fans were transfixed upon Game 3 of the 1989 World Series matchup between the San Francisco Giants and the Oakland Athletics.
So the Oakland A's take.
It was during TV coverage of this game where the news of that year's Loma Prieta earthquake began interrupting World Series coverage. The damage associated with the Loma Prieta earthquake has been estimated at between $14.2 and $15.2 billion when adjusted for inflation.
No power anywhere in the city, no phones, no word on how extensive the damage was.
Tsunamis and various landslides also occurred in the aftermath of this 6.9 magnitude quake, while the Nimitz Freeway in Oakland, California collapsed as a result of the impact. Finally, 63 deaths and over 3,000 injuries were also attributed to this record-setting natural disaster.
For some, it took years to recover. For many, the emotional scars still remain.
Number 4, R. Bud Dwyer's demise. On January 20th, 1981, R. Bud Dwyer became the 70th Treasurer of Pennsylvania, and he would remain as such for the next 6 years. Unfortunately, Dwyer was embroiled in a scandal when it was found that he accepted a bribe from Computer Technology Associates to award them with a contract regarding a state tax issue.
After a trial that lasted over a month, both men were found guilty.
He was found guilty, and his sentencing was scheduled for January 23, 1987. He could have faced around 50 years in prison.
Right up until the end, Dwyer maintained his innocence.
But the day before his sentence was to be handed down, Dwyer held a news conference and subsequently shot himself with a revolver. He died instantly, with one news camera capturing the event and broadcasting it on live television.
The incident caught viewers off guard.
Number 3, Mount St. Helens erupts. The major eruption of an active volcano is something that all of us hope we never have to experience in our lifetimes.
There had been 2 strong earthquakes just before 8:32 a.m. on May 18th. The bulge could stand no more, and as it broke loose and thundered down the mountain, it did so with a speed that kept millions of tons of earth airborne for the first several hundred yards.
Yet the 1980s eruption of Mount St. Helens was a televised natural disaster that unfolded in real time in living rooms around the world.
There was fear and there was death on Dark Sunday, when the day turned pitch black at noon.
Over $3.5 billion in damage was attributed to the blast when adjusted for inflation. An additional 57 deaths were also reported, while ash deposits from the Mount St. Helens blast were expelled into 11 U.S. states, as well as 5 provinces in Canada. Meanwhile, footage of the actual eruption remains a grim reminder of Mother Nature's fierce and unpredictable legacy.
Every time the wind comes up, this stuff will just blow again.
Number 2, Exxon Valdez oil spill. There may not have been any direct human deaths attributed to the 1989 Exxon Valdez oil spill, but that doesn't make the environmental impact from the disaster any less tragic.
Day 10 of the oil spill crisis, and the cleanup effort still just beginning.
What's even more troubling is how time couldn't even stop such a tragic oil spill from occurring again, since the over 10 million gallons of crude oil expelled into Alaskan waters were trumped by the Deepwater Horizon spill from 2010.
It's been obvious since the spill cam went public that BP had been wrong, either through incompetence or lying from the very beginning.
Yet, what both of these senseless spills have in common is the fact that both received international television coverage, as they happened in real time.
If you just let the water stand for even just a minute, then the oil blobs will start to show.
Still there 21 years after the spill.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into Settings and switch on your notifications. Number 1. The Space Shuttle Challenger disaster. Every 80s kid surely remembers the Challenger disaster. There was a ton of hype behind this launch, led mainly by the Teacher in Space project, which allowed New Hampshire schoolteacher Krista McAuliffe to fly with 6 other astronauts.
And liftoff. Liftoff.
The project was enormously popular, generating widespread interest in the Challenger launch and kickstarting a cultural fascination with space exploration. As a result, schools around the country tuned in and allowed their students to watch the Challenger launch live on TV. But on January 28, 1986, they all watched the space shuttle explode in real time, killing everyone on board.
At 11:40 a.m. this morning, space program experienced a national tragedy.
It was a national disaster of epic proportions, and one that will never be forgotten.
I thought it was a dream. I was speechless for a few minutes.
Did you happen to see any of these live? Let us know in the comments below.
Oh, please take the camera off and don't even bring it over there, please.
Oh my God.